Welcome to Reputation Revolution. This is the podcast where we help individuals like you to establish your voice in the marketplace, enhance the credibility of that voice, extend the reach of your story and your message, and finally, extract value from your efforts in building a meaningful personal brand that's both recognized and respected. Now, on with the show.
Welcome, my name is Trevor. You're listening to Reputation Revolution. This is the show where we unpack the many varied elements involved in building a credible thought leader brand and gain all the benefits that come with that. Now, today's episode is going to be all about LinkedIn with a sidebar conversation around LinkedIn company pages. We're going to discuss whether you need a LinkedIn company page on top of your profile if you're leveraging a business off the back of your professional personal brand. But first, Reputation Revolution is brought to you by the Credible Authority Academy. Grow your influence, create more impact, learn how to become a credible, influential voice in your industry. Go to credibleauthority.com. If you like what we talk about here on the Reputation Revolution, you'll no doubt be interested in what's on offer at the Credible Authority Academy. Let me get that out properly. Credible Authority Academy. Okay, let's get into the show. My guest today is Michelle J. Raymond. Michelle is a B2B social selling consultant. She's a LinkedIn strategist and trainer. She's also the founder of the business Good Trading Company. She's co-author of the book Business Gold, Build Awareness, Authority and Advantage with LinkedIn Company Pages. And she hosts the Good for Business show. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
I'm very excited to be here. I feel like we've done a role reversal. You were on my show, just a week ago, and now I get to come and join you.
I know. I love the synergies of all that and all the dynamic of swapping sides. So you're the one under the spotlight today. Kick us off. Give us a bit of a thumbnail sketch of your good self. How and why did you go down the LinkedIn consulting path? It's a pretty crowded space. What has the journey been like?
The accidental entrepreneur is how I would describe myself. So I fell into social selling around 8 years ago now. So I come from a sales background. I turned up at a new job and said, what do we sell? Because it was a new industry.
Yep.
They said, Michelle, just go away. It's your job. And I said, yeah, no problems. So I come from the beauty industry. So selling all the raw materials and ingredients that go into skincare and hair care and all the things you can't pronounce on the back of your shampoo bottle. And I said to them, so what do we sell? And they said, that's your job. And I said, yeah, I understand, but is it on the website? And they're like, Michelle, there's 10,000 ingredients. How do you expect us to do that? And I said, okay, we'll go old school. How about we go to the catalog? I can do that. And they said, no, Michelle, that's your job. You have to go out and sell this. And I was like, okay, let me do the maths. 10,000 ingredients, 80 customers spread around Australia. Not sure that's going to work out. The laws of physics will actually bring me undone. So I just got the job through LinkedIn. And I said to my boss, do you mind if I put some content on here? Because in my mind, I could reach many people at the same time from one place. And he said, does it cost anything? And I said, I don't think so. And so he goes, whatever, Michelle, go away. I don't care what you do as long as it doesn't cost anything. So off I went and I built one of the most amazing B2B communities around beauty, chemical distribution in the world. And that was my go-to. So wow. I loved it because
How long ago was that?
So I started nearly 8 years ago now.
Yeah.
So I did that as a side part of my sales role for 6 years. One day I'm working for someone who decided that they would renege on a $2 million deal that I'd just done with a very big customer.
Oh, no.
And I found out at 6:30 at night from that customer asking me what was going on. And I was completely oblivious and had no idea. So I quit on the spot, woke up the next day and went, I'm never working for a bad boss ever again.
Oh, that's
great.
How all good companies start.
And my partner, she said to me, Michelle, why don't you just work as hard for us and build a business and, work for us instead of working for everyone else and make us money? And I said, yeah, great. What will I do? She's like, you can sell anything. And, it sent me on a path for around 6 months of trying to work out what it was I was going to do, to the point where I nearly imploded because I was putting so much pressure on myself, coming
Yeah.
up with the right idea
Yeah.
and getting pulled in all kinds of different directions. And then eventually, thankfully, lockdown had happened all around Australia because it was March 2020 when I quit. And all my old industry had started to come onto LinkedIn. And I reached out to someone to help them and said, I wish that you could actually, if you did this and this, it would actually help you a lot. And she said, how do you know all of this stuff? And I said, I've been doing it for so long, rah, 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 rah. And she said, I wish I could learn from you. And I was like,
Bang.
there it is,
Light
the
bulb,
light
light bulb.
bulbs.
So were you? I mean, you're obviously active on the company page side of things for the in your role. Were you doing much in the profile, the individual side of it, or just focused more on the page?
It was actually the other way around. I'd never touched a company page. So what actually happened was I built up my own personal brand. The companies I worked for had zero interest in LinkedIn, so it was all me. And
Yep.
then what would happen is I'd change jobs and I'd take all of my 5,000 followers with me each time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I wrote this training program that was specific for the industry, went back out to some former clients and said, I could teach you how to do what I do. And they just looked at me with this, oh my God, can't you just do it for us? And I was like, is that a job? Maybe I'm showing my age. I'm 46. I didn't even think it was a job that people paid other people to do what I'd been doing as part of my job. It was just so far removed. And so I looked up, how could I do that? And being a page administrator is where company pages came into it, because I was like, yeah, I can do this for you. Right. So then what happens is I go to the next client and I offer training and the same response, can't you just do it for us?
Yeah.
And so then my sales brain kicks in and I do like a SWOT analysis of what's going on in the landscape. You're right. There was 1,000 different LinkedIn trainers, many of them established for quite a long time, but none of them were talking about company pages. So I decided I was going to own that little sand pit. Everyone else could play in the 99.5% of LinkedIn and fight over that. And I would own the company page sand pit and I would own 100% of it. And off I went.
And you wrote the book.
I wrote the book.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's the opportunities that came from being the only person willing to talk about company pages
Yeah.
as, a part of a business strategy has paid off dividends, but it wasn't easy. I don't pretend it was, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of skepticism at best. And I put that nicely, because people don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I mean, I guess with LinkedIn, they've been sort of very slow to sort of come to the party where we were so used to pages off Facebook for many, many, many years beforehand. But we can get into that in a tick. But first, I want to probably talk just a little bit more LinkedIn from a personal basis, because you've popped up on my radar as a person first, not as the business. And it's interesting, in more recent episodes, we've been talking about personal brand versus business brand. If we get time, I might ask you a question about that. But you're very, very active on LinkedIn, and from where I sit, you're making a splash. You're out there. You're adding a lot of value. You obviously practice what you preach. Have you got a philosophy of when it comes to the platform? How do you approach LinkedIn on a day-to-day basis?
For me, just like when I was out in sales, like I was very successful in my sales career because there's two things that I frame sales as: problem solving and helping people. And I literally have just taken that onto LinkedIn, and that's what I do. I spend a lot of time creating content that solves problems for other people, or I spend a lot of time helping others. And that can be supporting their content.
Yep.
It could be attending their events. It could be sending DM saying, hey, I haven't seen you for a while. It could be connecting other people and saying, actually, you guys are quite common. I think you'd get along really well. And I know both of you and respect both of you. So I'm just going to introduce you and step away. And there's been some amazing collaborations come out of those kind of
Yeah,
conversations.
nice.
And so I do a lot of work to support other people. I love creating content. I could do that with all day, every day with my eyes closed. But it's always with the intent of how will this help someone or solve a problem for someone on the other side. And I think that's why I'm so successful, because that's what people are looking for on the platform.
Mark Schaefer, who's a very well-known marketing author, he's written some fantastic books. He's been on the show before. Got one of the best marketing blogs out there. In one of his books, I think it's Marketing Rebellion, and he quoted someone who I can't remember. They were the head of marketing at Saucony, I think, or Adidas, one of the two, or they've probably been at both companies. And the quote there was, "Don't be in the city, be of the city." I'm paraphrasing that potentially a little bit, but the sentiment is exactly that: be of the city, of the fabric of the city. And when it comes to social media, we're both very much aligned in that review in that way as well. Be of the city, be part of the community. If you want to build your own community and following and network, you've got to help build other people's as well. So it feels to me that that's 100% the way you think as well.
Yeah, as simple as what goes around comes around is what my nan would have taught me. And, that's what I do. I say, if someone else is starting out, if I can help them, I reach back and, say, look, I've already learnt this.
Yep.
Here's how I think this will help. And so quite often, I'll jump on calls with people, or I'll actually initiate it and say, hey, would you like to catch up? Because I think our values are aligned, which is really important to me,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that our values align first. And then we worry about what people do or what their job title is or all that kind of stuff. And I'll jump on and they'll be like a bit gobsmacked. Oh my God, Michelle, I'm on a call with you. And I was like, yeah, I'm just a person like everybody else. So I don't put myself above anyone just based on a number of followers or time spent. And I think that relatability, what I want to build is a relatable brand. I
Yep.
want people to see themselves in me. I want them to be attracted to me because we share similar values.
Yep.
And that common theme of helping others, I
Yep.
really, I chose Good Trading Co. as my company name with a focus on the good. And it was at the time, to get away from working for bad bosses, if there's a good versus evil. But it was ultimately, I wanted to attract the kinds of people that light me up, and so I've now built that community. I missed out on doing it in the first year because I focused too much on becoming the LinkedIn company pages expert. And I ticked the box. Like you said, I wrote the book.
Yep.
I got to do all of these things. I'm part of the Small Business Advisor Council to LinkedIn Pages team. I ticked all of those boxes, but I got to the end of the year and I felt hollow. It was like a hollow victory is how I would describe it. I was a bit exhausted, but it wasn't really lighting me up. So then I went, what's missing? And I was like, it's my heart that's missing. I care about people. I like to be authentic. If I've messed something up, I will share it. I'm happy to be vulnerable and tell you what I care about.
Yeah.
And now that I'm doing that, who would have thought, my community is, really just leveled up and I'm surrounded by that kind of person as well. And now I feel like I'm on top of the world. And so I think that shows. And now I'm like energized by it. And I think when you start just being a LinkedIn version of yourself rather than who you really are, that's when
Yeah.
it goes pear shaped.
Yeah, no, it's thank you for sharing that, because I mean that's the key. We can strategically carve out our space, our intellectual territory, what we want to be known for. I call it reputational flags. What are they? What are we? Where do we? How do we want to build our reputation? But it's the intangible stuff around it. Like as you say, linking people to, connecting people together. Sharing other people's content, dropping in and helping their content by commenting and inviting others to join that conversation, and don't be in the city, be of the city. So you're doing that. So you're, as I said, very active. Clearly, the algorithm knows that I follow you, and you pop up all the time. So I know how active you are. How much time a week on your personal brand, let's say, personal business brand, do you spend on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I'm not going to lie, I'm probably spending a couple of hours a day on LinkedIn minimum because I also manage a few company pages for
Yep.
clients. So I'm checking in on their communities and building those as well. What I've become very good at, and this is the bonus of having a company page when at the time I was just a solopreneur, I've now got, as I said, got one more person helping me. But having a company page allows me to feel like I'm everywhere because I've got two chances of showing up: Good Trading Co. and Michelle J. Raymond. And so people are like, you seem to be everywhere all of the time. And what I've become good at is just repurposing my LinkedIn lives turn into multiple posts, turn into a podcast. I use them in my newsletters. And so I've become good at systemizing what content I create so that I'm not trying to create everything from scratch and original all the time.
Yep.
As much as I love it, it's not practical when I'm trying to build things off LinkedIn. It might be a new website, it might be building an email newsletter off the platform. Ultimately, my business is only a couple of years old and I've had to build it all from scratch.
Yep.
And it's been a humbling experience. I thought I knew a lot more than what I did. I just realized I worked in companies that had teams that handled a lot of stuff, so I didn't have to worry about it. And so there's a level of humility and, eating that humble pie that I've had to do and ask for help, along the way from people who are experts, that can really help me grow. And there are people like your newsletter, as I've said many a time, out there that I think, aligning myself with people that have been there who are experts in other fields really allows me to learn from them and grow. And, that's, I've realized, never going to stop.
No, you've got to just continue, isn't it? It's kind of, it's got to be part of your DNA. You got to, want to be involved and want to learn and want to share, and that's all the soft and fluffy stuff, which actually is where the magic happens. Michelle, what I'm very interested in company pages, because a lot of people now, and we're a show about professional personal branding, but a lot of people have got a company or a business around their personal brand. You can't just be a thought leader and without anything underneath it, otherwise you get very hungry. But so for people that are running a business that's let's call it off the back of their personal brand, a personal brand based enterprise, I like to call it. Do they need, this is the $1 million question, do they need a LinkedIn company page? And I call it a company page. Is it still called company pages or just pages?
Well, the official name is LinkedIn Pages. The unofficial name that most people refer it to is LinkedIn Company Pages. And there's also some people who call it LinkedIn Business Pages, which is, the hangover from Facebook, I think.
I think so, yeah.
And so this is part of the confusion. And even setting up a company page is really difficult to find on LinkedIn. Like the menu is hidden away in an obscure place. So even just setting it up. And I think if we look, my answer is different now than what it would have been if we started talking maybe 5 years ago. Couple of things have happened. COVID is number one. Now, what happened with that? So many businesses brought their advertising spend onto LinkedIn. It was crazy. 2 years ago, LinkedIn had about 3 people in the pages team. It's plus 30 these days and growing faster than you can keep up with. Same with the number of features. So if people haven't had a look at it in the last 12, 18 months, it's time to go back with a fresh set of eyes and have a look. I believe everyone needs one to add credibility to their personal brand. So I'm not someone that says stop doing anything with your personal brand. What I'm saying is keep doing what you're doing with that and get the synergy out of working with the company page and building a brand that actually amplifies that. So it's the whole 1 + 1 = 3 is what I've got going on. So do you get the same amount of reach? Absolutely not. You don't. I can't, there's no magic secret that I can share with people today that will say this is how you do it. But what you can actually do is actually use the company brand to build the personal brand and vice versa. And that's where the magic is. And that's what I like to share with people.
Yeah, well, that deals into there's your answer. There, my answer about company brand versus personal brand, and we've had 2 episodes dedicated to that. The first 2 episodes of this season, number 6. So let me drill down a little bit. Then, do you need a company name, a business name that's not your own, or can you kind of, if you don't want to put it under your own name, Trevor Young Proprietary Limited or Limited or whatever, if you've just got a company like that you don't really promote, I guess, that brand of it, can you use maybe a podcast or your blog, or name of your podcast or name of the blog? I could do one, Reputation Revolution. I'm just going through this, by the way. Before you came on for this week, I knew you were coming on. I've actually gone and done it because I've just launched the Credible Authority Academy, and I thought, maybe I better have a company page, otherwise Michelle will get into me if I don't. So I've created that, and I've gone down that path, but that's a sort of a business off the back of me. It's not my whole business. So that's where I found it quite interesting. But it's going to be a brand that I'll promote, whereas my company brand, I don't promote that. I promote me. So that's a long way of saying, what do we name these pages?
So the good news is you can literally name it whatever you choose. There is no restriction to, say, our company numbers versus what you can set up. There's no match that happens on LinkedIn, which is a plus and a negative, depending if you've got fake accounts attaching to your company name. That can be a problem because there is no verification process. On the plus side, it gives you lots of flexibility to create it as you see. Now, I would say to people, I wouldn't use exactly the same name just because it becomes really confusing. So if I had Michelle J. Raymond and Michelle J. Raymond, one with a photo, one with a logo, I've tried it. I experimented with a lot of different things in the beginning. And what I find is at the speed that we scroll, it's literally that 0.03 of a second that we look at things. I don't want people to see my name twice and think they've already seen it and keep on scrolling.
Yeah.
Now, I learned that lesson when I batch made a couple of videos and posted one on my company page, completely different content, but I looked exactly the same backgrounds, and both of them tanked because I think people went, I've already seen that, and we don't pay that much attention. So, can be creative. So I've got my company page. I then link my podcast, actually links as a showcase page, which is just slightly different. What I actually think the main concern people have is if I start doubling up and I've got a page and I've got a personal profile and I've got all this content I've got to create, how do I keep up? I think that actually blocks a lot of people from exploring company pages because they don't want to duplicate how much work they've got to get done. Especially as a solopreneur, you're already juggling so much. So what I like to say is create the company page and treat it as your greatest hits album, right? You're not going to try and maintain it every day, but when something really resonates on your personal profile and it's an evergreen piece of content or maybe a frequently asked question, then take that and repurpose it and put it over on the company page. Because I think the resourcing problem is actually the deterrent as opposed to the value of company pages. So getting clear about that up front. We don't post it on the same day, so we give it some space and looked as repurposing as part of your content strategy so that you can maintain a presence. Because what happens is we're all doing our online stalking, TripAdvisor, Yelp, Google reviews, you name it. Before we hand our money over to a business, we want to check out that it's legit.
Yep.
So I might like working with one-on-one with the person, but when it comes to handing over money, especially when we're working internationally so easily these days,
Yep.
I just want to check before I send that international transfer, is this business legit? And having a company page is important because if you Google the business name, it will show up in the first few results. So if nothing else, Google results first page. So it'll show up probably in the top 6 results if you Google your business name. The LinkedIn company page will sit there. The other thing is you can update your personal profile on LinkedIn and then your work experience will show your little logo everywhere. So no grey ghost buildings, which, it just takes away a bit of credibility, right? So anything that we can remove that friction, that's what I'm there for.
That's a reason why I've always kind of liked them, because the logo pulls through into your own profile and it makes it look a little bit more dynamic, I guess. And as you say, instead of those little, what do you call it, little grey building avatars. I've got a couple of those. And so I notice, I think on yours you've got your book as well. Is that a sub-page of can you walk us through how you've structured your page? Because you've got a company name, but you've also got some other elements around it.
I do.
And it sounds like you've got some sub-pages. Why don't you walk us through that? Because that'll be really interesting.
Yeah, so often it's about the structure of what kind of page is the right kind of page for the right kind of business or outcomes. I tie everything back to business goals. Now, a company page is what I would call like the umbrella page. It's where everything comes together and everything sits underneath. And that's the main one that I would say for 99% of people, that's all you will ever need. You will see things like product pages and showcase pages and all these other things that sit over on the other side. And for people, I guess for most people, they're enticing and you think, maybe I need one of those. But it's another lot to manage. It's another community to build. It's more work to be done. So for most people, unless you've got a significant team that can manage this, ignore them. You don't need them. Just manage it with your content. So I have a company page called Good Trading Co. I also then created a showcase page for my podcast. So all of the episodes are over there. I do it so that I can easily refer people on LinkedIn. I can go and tag them. If there's an episode where they've asked me a question about, how to build a credible authority on LinkedIn, then I easily go back to that episode and say, here's what I did with Trevor, tag them in it, and keep that social conversation going besides sending them off platform.
Right.
Now, that helps me to manage some of the everyday questions that I get asked, and it's just an easy place to keep them on LinkedIn. I also have a couple of other company pages. Now, I have one for Business Gold, for instance, which was the book that I wrote with Lynette Johnston.
Yep.
Why did we set one up? Because we needed a place where we could both manage the content and both have access. And a company page is perfect for that because you can have assign third parties as page admins. So we both have equal access. We could both manage the content that needed to be created. And again, do I put a lot of effort into that page? Absolutely not. Mostly it's photos that people have taken with the book that we keep a record and tag them, and it's just built up a really nice trophy cabinet almost. In the beginning, we used it to help promote the book.
Yep.
This is coming through. So having access, I've got another one called the LinkedIn Branding Show with Michelle Griffin, where we again need to share that, and we've got a book coming, at the end of this year, which will tie into that. So again, two people needing access, and that's the main difference between company pages and profiles. You can outsource the administration of a company page. You officially can't do that for a personal profile.
Right. So let me gather all that together and tie it up in a bow. So you've got the Good Trading Co. is your main greatest hits. And when you have good content that resonates on your personal profile, you cross it over and share it on Good Trading Co. You've got a showcase page. Is that the sub page, the same as the sub page? Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's is the book that?
That's for the podcast.
Oh, sorry, the podcast,
Yep.
the LinkedIn
Yeah.
Live.
Yeah.
And then, so you've got that running around. And then the book itself's got its own page, and you share that with Lanier, your co-author. And
Absolutely.
you've got something happening with Michelle Griffin as well. So
Yeah, and it sounds complicated, and you can see when people try to divide things up how quickly and easily it becomes overwhelming for most
yes,
people. So I can do all of this because I'm very clear around what the goal is for those pages. I'm very
right,
clear around how much effort I'm capable of putting in. In some cases, we're sharing that effort so I can achieve more. But ultimately, for most people, you're not going to have that luxury. It's going to be overwhelming. And the last thing that I want people to do is give up too soon. That's the
yep,
main thing that I'm out to do. It's sustainability over the long term to just keep it ticking over. Even if it's one post a week, one post every 2 weeks,
yep,
just so when I'm stalking you, because we're all doing it. When I'm stalking you, I go and see that you're active. Now, it doesn't have to be every day and, again, manage the workload, but I want to see that something's popping up, that you're a credible company and not just a good talker, right?
yep.
And so this is
Cool.
where we use those to build up that reputation.
So for listeners out there who have a business, so they've got their own personal page, they're reasonably active or super active or not active, whatever the case may be, on that personal page, but they have a business, you recommend you should have a company page off the back of that business. And one of the good reasons is that will look good on your personal profile because the logo will come up. But then you can cross-pollinate between the two. Now, this opens up another question. We did talk about duplicate content. So before, when you said when you do have a post that works really well on the personal, you put it across on the company page, you repurpose. I take that as if it's a blog post, for example, that works, you just change the caption of it in the feed. Is that simple as that?
Yeah, sometimes it can be a straight copy paste. It doesn't even need to be that complicated. I wish that my content was so great that the same sets of eyes the algorithm would show it to every single time. The fact is, you don't know when something's going to land with people on the other
Of
side.
course,
So,
of
from
course.
that perspective, the chances of people seeing it twice are so minimal. And what do we do if we see something already, which is quite common on the
Just
feed?
flip past
We
it.
just scroll. Like, it's not
Yeah.
offensive on the platform. So, yeah, that's
No,
all I
and
do.
that's fair call. Now, what about, I know a lot of companies that have got pages, and I've heard them talk about it, and they say, well, we put our original stuff on our company page and then we share it on our personal page. You don't believe that's the right way. You believe you put it on your personal page first and then the company, or is it tomato and tomato?
No, I think it's a really complicated answer to this one. So,
Oh,
if I look at it in isolation, pressing the share button on LinkedIn right now gets you nowhere in general, right? So
true.
your reach is just abysmal at best. So does it work to press that button, or even the repost function that we've got right now, which is a slight alternative? Do they work? I would say if we're talking and measuring on terms of reach, no, they
No.
don't, which has got nothing to do with your strategy. It's just a feature and function within LinkedIn. There's a lot of things that go on, and we know that, over 90% of people are not comfortable creating content or engaging with content on LinkedIn. Now, why I love company pages, it's really interesting that people are quite often really capable content writers creating content for company pages. If I ask them to do the same on their personal profile, they just have a meltdown. There's all this anxiety that comes up about being judged by my boss or my peers or my competitors, and it just takes it away. So often I'll say to people, if you feel comfortable pressing the share button, I will take a person, an employee, anyone taking an action on the platform over sitting in the grandstands, just watching what's going on. So if I can get them to press share, the chances are I could probably get them to press like, and down the track build up confidence to get to commenting, which is obviously the name of the game. Quite often, too many people say don't share, but for someone that might be like such a huge action, and I
Yeah,
don't ever want to discourage that. So
yeah.
um, there's a bit of pros and cons on both. There are wins that aren't measured by just reach that I also would like to factor in.
Yeah, so well, that's good. That's good. So it's not as complex, really, as what we probably make it out to be. and so that's the content side. So what you're saying is, if you got to, you really want to nail LinkedIn proper, you've got to be on it pretty much every day. If you want to be a full-on participant and a creator, probably not content every day, but at least be on it every day, and you've got to be active. Like that's just an ongoing treadmill we have to get in, but not see it as a treadmill, because that's a negative. It should not be seen as a negative. That works, that grows. We've seen people, really nail that side of things. You're a great case in point. How do you then grow and with the company page, you don't have to tend to it as much. How then, therefore, the things that grow your personal page, you don't really do with your company page. How do you grow your company page?
First off, LinkedIn do give us some tools to help us to kind of grow the page from the get-go. So one thing that they give us is what's called invite credits. So
Yep.
depending where you are in the rollout process, you can have anywhere between 100 to 250 invite credits that are given to you. As you send them out, people accept them, you get another credit back, you could send that back out. So that goes to your first degree connections. Now, that is the fastest way to grow. There are many of my, let's say, competitors out there, other trainers that will say, don't use those invites because you can't customize the invite note that goes out with them. I'm here to categorically say, do not listen to that. It is the fastest way to grow the community on your page by using them. The good part is now we get to use some invite filters. So whether it's by location, whether it's by industry, you can target companies. Like, how amazing is that? If you're doing account-based marketing, you can search for all of your current connections that are at that particular company and invite them. And they're giving us lots of other ways that we can help employees invite their contacts to obviously follow the page as well. So inviting is a really big part of company page growth. If you don't do that, the chances of your page growing organically, when we know it doesn't show in the feed or shows very rarely, is minimal, right? And so you have to embrace the tools that we've been given. And that is, the number one thing. Other things for me personally that I find really successful that I would encourage other people to explore is a company page newsletter and company page LinkedIn Lives. They are the two things that LinkedIn are placing all of their efforts behind right now to improve, to make them grow for brands. And so from that perspective, that's where I'm putting so much of my effort on my page, not so much on posts.
All right, let's back the truck up there.
Thought you might say that.
I do like I've only a few days ago, I've done my Credible Authority Academy company page, and I did go through the invites, and that's given me a nice head start. So I feel really good that I'm not Scott Malone on my what is it, Pat Malone. I'm not Pat Malone on There's the Only Follower. That's probably very Australian for people, isn't it? I'm not alone. Is what that is for international listeners who don't understand Australian rhyming slang. The LinkedIn Live, and I want to talk to you about LinkedIn Live anyway, but you've brought it up, so let's tackle that here. And what was the other one you just said? LinkedIn Live and
LinkedIn newsletters for company pages.
Okay, so they're two really good functions for your personal brand, for your personal profile. I think I've got a newsletter and I've done LinkedIn Live. Not as much as you, but I've done them, right? So I think they're good there. Why would I then do them in a company page and not on my own?
Really simple answer is this. After you went live on your personal profile, you disappeared down the feed, never to be seen again. It's really hard to go and search for it to find it. Now, what happens is, unless you pin it in your featured section, it's pretty much content that's disappeared forever. Unless you know where it is, you'll go and search for it and find it, but nobody else will. On a company page, the brilliant thing that we have that's different is a video tab. And so every LinkedIn Live, you create an event. So there's an events tab, so you can create them out in advance. It shows you a full list of all of the current events that are coming up and all of your past events, so easily searchable.
Nice.
And then all the lives, the video sits on the video tab. And so I've got my own LinkedIn YouTube channel sitting on my company page where every single LinkedIn Live I've done, I can go back and again keep that social conversation, which is where my community is and where I can help people. So I just quickly tag them, come and watch this, come and see this. I spoke about this with this person here. And if what I do is I create my events in advance. And so, for instance, next week I'm talking about TikTok for business on my LinkedIn Live. If I'm scrolling my feed and I see someone talking about TikTok on LinkedIn in my feed, I invite them to that. And so it's really targeted, hyper-focused, and the chances of people coming and getting value increases, then my credibility increases because I'm not just spam inviting people. I'm going, I think you'll really get value out of this. You can do it on your personal profile. It's just so much harder to go searching for the info.
Good. That's a really good tip. And so when you're saying you invite people and all that, you're not doing it as the page. The page, you can't comment as the page. You have to comment as the individual. That's correct.
So you can comment as a company page now in the feed really easily, which is great. So that's a feature that's only rolled out in the last couple of months. And again, we're starting to see the direction that LinkedIn wants brands to drive conversations. Okay, they want them to be involved. Their research in the Edelman report backs all of this up. It's not just coming from me personally. They've invested a ton of money in this report, and everything about B2B is, look, they want brands to lead the conversation. So we want to do business with brands we love just as much as people we love. And so they're giving us tools to make this happen. And LinkedIn Lives is one of the huge areas of focus that we're seeing. And I'm hoping we'll be able to do like paid lives and things like that in the future, but haven't seen them yet, but I think that's a natural kind of progression of where things will go.
And I do recommend people check you out on LinkedIn anyway. Go to Good Trading Co. LinkedIn page and have a look at all those lives, because I see them pop up. I kind of never even sort of thought until now whether it was on your page or whatever. It just appeared, but now that makes a lot of sense. So that's a really good tip right there. And what do you think about? Oh, just quickly back on that. Some people, is everyone, do you think, got LinkedIn Live functionality now? And do you get that? Yeah, then do you get it on your company page automatically, or you have to wait or submit for it?
Yeah, so the application process at the beginning was really clunky, and that's gone away now. So if you have LinkedIn Creator Mode turned on, you get LinkedIn Live automatically.
Yep.
If you've got 150 page followers on your company page, it's automatic as well. So they dropped it from much higher standards to be able to get access, to encourage more businesses to get active. And so we're seeing those application processes taken away. So there's really
Right. So
not
you
much
need
excuse for people
150. You need 150 followers of your page, and then you can do LinkedIn Lives. Perfect.
Yeah.
One other question is, another new functionality of LinkedIn, is the live audio events. People are freaking out here, all of these things. The LinkedIn Live audience events, which are quite new, and they're still in beta probably, or not?
Yeah, look, they've been rolled out for personal profiles, so you can run a LinkedIn audio event if you have creator mode turned on. That's the first group of people that have access to it. So it's still a bit glitchy. You can't record. But for the most part, it works really well. Now, secret is that next month, part of the testing team that'll be testing it for pages. So we'll see brands again be able to run LinkedIn audio events coming, sometime in the next quarter, or maybe a bit longer, depending how well the rollout and testing goes. But we're seeing that come across as well. So again, think conversations and community. Those are the tools that we're getting for pages. So if we think about pages, and this is where I'm out to kind of change the conversation this year, is stop collecting page followers. It's not inspiring to anybody. Start building your B2B community. Start being the go-to source for your industry and inviting everyone from a 360 degree. It could be suppliers, it could be regulatory, it could be employees, customers, past, present, anything that kind of contributes to your industry, and just really own that space. That's better than how do I get more followers? Who cares? Followers are useless if we don't do something with them from a business perspective.
Unless you get 150, so you can then do videos. Live.
Exactly. And now that you get 250 invite credits, LinkedIn recognized there's a couple of myths that were around. There's the myth that it's too hard. Well, sorry, it wasn't a myth. It's too hard to grow a page in the beginning. I was working with clients telling them to pay me for at least 9 months before they would see anything. And no matter how good I am, most businesses are going to question, if you can't see anything, what are the results? Are you just a scammer? So this is why we've got the increase. So the faster we can grow the number of followers, the more engagement. And so that's why we get the 100 to 250. We're also starting to see other things come through where LinkedIn have heard our cries that we don't get seen in the feed. So I think we'll start to see other ways around that. I don't think that pages will show up in the feed as much as personal profiles ever. That's not what's going to happen. But the myth around it's only because they want us to pay for ads, that's categorically not true. I think it's just a reflection of how little effort was put into pages,
Right.
historically.
So lots to unpack there. Thank you very much, Michelle. Let's just recap on stuff. So building a personal brand, you should be on LinkedIn anyway, so we're not going to even beat that drum. Should be doing it, should be active, should be of the city, not in the city. Build your digital neighborhood, create content, get involved, all of that. Okay. Got a business, get a company page. What you name it is up to you. Is it your company name if you've got a brand name? But it could be, you've got a name of a podcast or a blog or a book even, as Michelle's done. So it's good to get it up there and give it some meaning, and then work the two together. Business brand builds personal brand builds business brand. The opportunity, if you're going to do LinkedIn Lives, preferably do it on a company page versus a personal profile, but you need 150 followers before you get to that point. Newsletter, we didn't probably pick up on that. I've got a newsletter personally. It is searchable. It is findable, I believe. It's a lot easier for people to find that on my personal one. Why should I put that on a company page, or should I not?
Well, for you, like your whole brand is built around your personal brand. So it may not make sense for you to then go and create something over on a company page. But if you've got a team that are working for the same company, you might have a marketing team versus the CEO. We're now starting to see some tools where we'll be able to collaborate to make newsletters, right? So that's the main difference. So as a solopreneur, we probably might make some different choices. The main thing that I've got is I've got, just over 10,000 followers on my personal profile. On first glance, that looks amazing because I've got 1/5 of that sitting over on my company page. And you would think, well, why would I do a newsletter that's only got potentially 2,000 versus 10,000? And I can see why, people would say the math just doesn't add up to do it the other way. But what you've got to factor in for me personally is that I built my personal following in the beauty industry selling chemicals, and around half of those are built on that community. They don't care about company pages. They don't, they might a little bit, but ultimately that's not the news channel that they were following me for. On my company page, however, that has been strategically built, and it is a pure concentrate of people that are interested in company pages and LinkedIn for business specifically. So I do run 2 different ones. How often I get to them, that becomes the challenge, of course, which is where the repurposing of LinkedIn Lives or other things that I do into those newsletters becomes so important. And so it's, 2 different audiences, one like me personally, one want to know more about LinkedIn and pages. And so I just, tune them differently.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm working with a client doing a strategy for them at the moment, and they've got about 15 staff. They'll probably get up to 20 to 30. The owner is dynamic. We've got a sidebar strategy for her as a personal branding, but I've sort of been actually wrestling with that. I felt, maybe we got to put some through the company page and then let others contribute, and she continues doing her stuff as well. So it's not either or, really.
One of the other factors that I would say, if you're working with a business of any size that has an intention in the future of being sold, so it's a business that's being built with the idea of being sold at some point in the future, you can't sell personal followers and connections as part of that process. So there is a value to a really strong online community, I believe, these days. It may not have a physical dollar value on the accounting books, but it's the social proof that your business has. And so I think that has a value. And so if any of your clients of any size in the future are thinking about growing to a point where they may sell, or growing where they'll need help to manage content, then the company page is the place to be able to manage that easily.
Yeah. Excellent point. Well, I might finish up on that. Thank you very much, Michelle. People find you, I take it, on LinkedIn, or maybe not. Where do you want to send people? What's the company page and the company website and the book? The name of the book again?
Yeah, so Business Gold is the name of the book. It's the world's first and best-selling book on company pages. And so if you're looking for a great resource to understand how to set one up and get started, that's the book for you. So Michelle J. Raymond, and the reason I use my initial is because there's 1.5 million Michelle Raymonds on LinkedIn. You will not find me without the middle initial. I discovered that early on, hence why it's there. But Good Trading Co. is my company. So if you want to follow my company page, that's where I share all about how to get the most out of company pages on LinkedIn to grow your business. So,
and your LinkedIn live events, which are
Every
great videos,
Thursday.
great interviews with great people, particularly last week.
Yeah. Awesome guest.
Awesome guest. All right. Thank you very much, Michelle.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
The reputation economy is here. The world today needs more genuine, credible experts and leaders to stand up and share their experience, their wisdom, their stories and ideas. Are you in?